She's dead, and I can't be bothered anymore with anything. Even Carruthers, my faithful robo-cat, has stopped caring. He sits in the corner, licking his paws. It's been a very long time since I had physical contact with anyone, and it's as if my edges are blurred. It's horrible, and yet I choose to keep my distance. What an odd couple we make, me and Carruthers. Sitting on our chairs, not moving or touching, lost in our own internal worlds. He's supposed to keep me company, give me my essential physical contact. Who'd have guessed that he'd copy me and withdraw? It's as if he's like on pause. Ho ho. He's no longer a companion. He has no reason to exist now, and yet he still does. To give him his credit, he does a splendid job of reminding me that by disengaging, I have reneged on my promise to my fellow humans. I mean, when I was younger, I would have at least had to eat and drink, but not now. The nanobots take care of all that messy stuff anyway, swimming around inside of me, repairing and renewing cells. Down there inside my stomach is their nanobot factory. They produce all of the energy and nutrients that I need, making sure it's all delivered to the right place and in the right quantities. We're told, and I have no reason to doubt it, that they can reproduce too. And as they find ways to improve, they create new and better versions of themselves, and I excrete their old. It's a perfect relationship. There's nothing I have to do to stay alive. Shit. My skin hurts. It went through the silvery phase some while ago. That's designed to alert others that I'm lacking enough physical contact to maintain a well-balanced psyche, which is well and good, really, if you're out and about mixing with people, but pretty useless if you're alone. Us, US, unified sentience, all being connected, knowing each other's feelings and thoughts, is a natural human ability that everyone has. The closer you are, the more intense. And occasionally, you connect more deeply with someone than anyone else. Mathwa, she was that person. We're not meant to be alone. It's frowned upon, almost illegal. And it's my choice now, I know. But I miss her so much. We were soulmates of the highest order, and anything less would be devastating. They call it peaking, the moment when you're in such a heightened state of connectivity that everything else falls away, and you reach this communion that's so pure that you want to stay there forever. And we found it. It's strange. It's kind of similar to dreaming you're someone else and knowing exactly how they feel, even after you've woken up. Today's reality for me, though, is just loneliness. My shabby grey skin, the colour of dirty concrete, is so dry that it's flaking off. And where it flexes the most, like at my wrists, my elbows, and my knees and my ankles, it's actually cracking. Some of the cracks are bleeding, but generally the bots are doing a good job at fixing them with scabs that remind me of the grey pointing between blocks of concrete. I know that skin is genetically modified to turn grey when it's not been touched for a while. which in turn is supposed to encourage me to find another human and make some physical contact and halt the skin decay. I just miss her. And I don't want to be connected to us. And I certainly don't want anybody else touching me. I'm happy as I am. No, I'm not. I'm miserable. But it's my misery. It's our misery. And I won't share it. We were together, Mathua and I. The day the scientists realized that human brains had adapted and become telepathic, Plasticity Day, the popular media called it. The nanobots had been transmitting thoughts and feelings directly between brains for some time, so the experience wasn't exactly new. But the fact that our brains had learned how to do it unaided was nothing short of miraculous. Humanity had evolved into higher sentient beings and us was born. That was when we collectively realized that the most basic human need is to be touched. Matthew and I sat there for days, just the two of us, immersed in the delight of each other's minds. Talk about peaking. We were completely lost in our intertwining, and we never spoke again. In fact, nobody speaks. There's no need. It's kind of considered disgusting, no different to shitting in public, although I'm told that there are fetish clubs where people talk out loud to one another. So here I am, alone, grey, drying out, and in severe pain. I want to wallow in my misery. It's mine. Why should I share it? But the pain is actually becoming quite impossible to bear, and I know it's going to get worse and worse until I have some physical contact, a touch or two at least. And for that, I have to leave my house. The street is crowded with people going about their business, in and out of shops, standing next to one another, smiling and frowning, communing with each other. Of course, it's silent, apart from the occasional door closing or a child's buggy bumping down some steps. I see them, and I feel them, but I'm deliberately not connecting, keeping them distant and hazy. Not one of them is real to me, in the true sense of us. My skin is so tender that I had to resort to wearing this crumpled, baggy t-shirt dress that belonged to my mother, and it probably makes me look a bit weird, as if I choose not to belong, which of course I guess is true to some extent. But why would I want them crawling over my memories and my pain? Like I said before, they're mine. A smartly dressed young man crosses the road. I can see from his face and the increase in us intensity that he's heading for me, gearing up to help. He's emanating goodness. But it's false. The overwhelming feeling that I'm getting of him is just neediness, of desperation to feel useful. So I just fire some nasty thoughts his way, making fun of his seriousness and his lack of self-awareness. And then he swerves through 90 degrees, pretending he wasn't heading my way. The other people on the street look away, and I can feel their defenses rise against me, an act that will cause them discomfort for a few hours. Good. Serves them right. And anyway, if I let loose the torrent of pain that's streaming through my body right now, it'd be too much for them. They wouldn't know what to do. Shuffling along the street, head down, concentrating on the pavement. The hem of the dress scrapes my skin, adding extra jolts to the constant flow of pain. But I want this misery, and I want everyone to know that I'm suffering. Stay away, stay away, stay away, I'm lonely. What a fool. It's all well and good to snarl and growl, but where will it get me? Nowhere. I only came out because I have to. I need to be touched. But I have no idea how. Maybe a crowded shop would be a good place to try. I'm sure I could bump into a few people accidentally on purpose, and it might give me some temporary relief. A shop of bargains. Perfect. They're always crowded, and their customers expect a bit of pushing and shoving. Disgust oozes across the shop as I open the door. It's ill-defined, but there's no mistaking the underlying mixture of pity and revulsion, creating confusion in people's minds, which quickly turns to spite and hatred. It's toxic, so I turn to leave, head down and suppressing my own fear. I won't let them see how much I need them. Just one touch is all I need. As I hurry out, I catch my peeling skin on a sign advertising cheap detergent, and I start to bleed on their nicely polished floor. So my bots kick in to form a scab with as much speed as the store's cleaning blots that slide across the floor to remove the blood. Why did I think this was a good idea? I might as well admit defeat and go home and slowly peel to death. Did she ever consider this when she killed herself? I doubt it. What am I thinking? I know she didn't. We planned it together. She wanted out and I helped. She needed out. That's the real pain. The pain that I haven't even started to allow on the surface yet. That's the source of my filthy grey concrete skin. I wasn't enough for her. And no matter how often she tried to convince me I was, I knew. She couldn't hide it. And that's the price of peaking. And I'm tired. There's a little patch of grass with a bench, a perfect spot to recover before I go home. People pass by and I can feel them. First of all, they see me and register my need. And then they quickly avert their attention. They're excluding me. And I only really have myself to blame. I'm so glad that she's not here to experience this. The sun is warm, and it gives some respite to my naked arms and legs. And I actually feel better than I have all day. A woman, a little younger than me, sits down on the bench. How irritating. Her mind is reaching out. I can feel her, and she's not repulsed. She doesn't even really pity me. So what is it she feels? I can't quite place it. Is it empathy? It's not sympathy. It's not patronizing. It's as if she knows the deepness of my pain, and she's actually comfortable sitting there, letting our psyches sit side by side, barely touching. I like this. She's not rushing things, but she's not hesitant. She knows how I feel and what I need. The trouble is I'm not strong enough for this level of intimacy. I know it's only the passing care of a stranger, but it's more than I've had for all the past few months put together. She turns and smiles. She knows I'm at my limit. She realizes that if she stays any longer, the emotions that I'll release will be too much for either of us. So she just rests her hand on my leg. And then she stands, projecting feelings of warmth and care as she hurries away. Carruthers is sitting closer this morning. He can detect the change. I'm not in as much pain, and I swear my skin isn't as grey as it was when I went to sleep. It's amazing what a single touch can do. I'm ready to take a stroll through the streets again. Only this time, I'll try hard to keep my misery and anger to myself, or at least not use it deliberately as a defense mechanism. The air smells cleaner than it did yesterday, and the cloud of us that hovers around the shoppers seems lighter somehow, as if they've all had a good night's sleep and are looking forward to what the day will bring. A young girl smiles, and I wink back. Her mother pulls her closer and stares, emanating a sharp wave of anger. I soften my mind so that she can get a glimpse at my genuine intention to make the girl happy. The father gets it, and he nods at me. As I make my way along the street, I can feel their fear is a lot lower than it was yesterday. My clothes are still causing people to stare, and there's a general sense of wariness, but the hostility and guilt is nothing like as intense. A young man and his girlfriend are walking towards me hand in hand. It's nice to see their happiness ripple through the us. I'm envious of their contribution. The thoughts of Mathwa swirl around, but good thoughts, warm feelings of joy and contentment. The couple stop next to me, and the young man touches my bare arm and shakes my hand. And his girlfriend kisses my cheek, and the skin pain eases. I close my eyes, letting the warmth I'm experiencing flow out towards them. They hug each other and carry on with an even lighter step and an even brighter glow. This is good. I rub my hands together. I'm sure they feel less flaky, and unless it's a trick of the light, the greyness on me has become more silver. I'm heading back to the bench. I've no idea if she'll be there, but for some reason it feels like the right thing to do. A hunch, maybe? Or a suggestion on the winds of us. I don't know, and I don't really care. I'm happy to go along with the idea and just see what happens. It's slow going, though, because every few steps, someone stops me and either shakes my hand or touches my arm, and one person actually hugs me. I mean, there's a definite silver colour to my skin now, and I feel good. That's not to say that the misery isn't still there. Of course it is. It's just that now it's part of a bigger whole. I guess you could say I'm starting to get some perspective, or if you were like an old-style therapist, you might say that. Now that's a profession that's changed beyond all recognition since us. She's close. Agnature? That's her name. And she's hoping I'll come back. As I turn the corner and the bench comes into sight, I wave at her, and she waves back. Another woman stops to shake my hands. Her child pats me on the leg a little too hard, but it's less painful than it would have been yesterday. I take my time to get to the bench, wallowing in the knowledge that Agnature is there for me, that she wants to sit beside me and enjoy my presence. When I arrive, she moves towards the center of the bench, and we just sit for a while, deliberately vague in our thoughts and feelings, just sort of getting to know each other better. Friends, lovers, and childhood pass through her thoughts. Many friends, a few lovers, and an extremely happy childhood, but then she opens up a new level of intimacy. Her mother took her own life. Her mother took her own life, and Agnature doesn't have any idea why. I think she's probing, sensing my grief. Well, I'm not ready. She understands that, and she moves her thoughts back to the sunshine and to the children playing and stuff. That's better. Her hand slides up my arm to one of the many silver scabs, and she gives it a tug. It comes off easily, revealing fresh silvery pink flesh beneath. And it reminds me of being a child, and how my mother would reward me with ice cream when I had been brave. That was before we all swallowed these pots and stopped eating, of course. Agneta smiles. She knows a place that sells ice cream. I swallow at the thought of ice cream, but also at such intimacy with someone other than Mathwa. Well, anyway, after a few weeks of spending as much time together as possible, we move into her mother's old house, as that seems the most neutral of our options. We have breakfast together every morning, no matter what each of us might have planned for the day. It's not the eating type of breakfast, obviously, more a sort of like few minutes in our own space. The two of us realigning after sleeping. This morning is the same as any other, except that we plan to spend the day together to celebrate our 1-month anniversary. Carruthers prances about the room and leaps into my lap. Stroking him is so soothing and comforting, it's hard to imagine life without it. In fact, it's difficult to remember the days we sat across from each other, locked in our own separate lives. He arches his back, jumps onto the table and parades regally to Agneta. And I feel her love for him and for me. She picks him up and plops him down on the table between us, and we stroke him and hold hands. It's a perfect relationship, each one of us feeding our good stuff to the other. Last night was a special night. Not the first time, but rare and special nonetheless. On our way up to peaking, it became sexual. This happens sometimes, either on the way up or on the way down. It's not an everyday occurrence, only when the time is right, and then it's as if there's no other possible thing that could happen. Each time, I feel a little bit closer to her. Last night, she opened up another whole level of intimacy, tentatively edging into a fragile, protected space. The mind garden that she'd created to hold painful memories of her mother. I reciprocated by opening the gate to my Mathwa garden. Metaphorically speaking, we sat in each garden, soaking up the atmosphere and deepening our understanding of each other. Hers was a beautiful place of wildflowers, a long narrow lawn and an old drooping willow tree. The smell of warm soil and freshly cut grass blended with baking bread wafting from the kitchen, styled specifically to represent homeliness, love, and safety. A deliberate choice, I guess, to soften the pain that the garden was constructed to hold. Mine is more derelict. A dusty, stony courtyard littered with broken machinery, constructed after Mathwa's death. It's a representation of how we saw the world around us. She stops stroking Carruthers. I'm making her uncomfortable, picking over the details of that relationship. I can feel her just like willing me to move on. And fair enough. It belongs to both of us, this microcosm of us. And despite the fact that it's there for anyone to encounter, we still maintain control of how and who. If she wants to wait a while before opening up, that's fine with me. It's fine with me. Ice cream? She wants ice cream. A neat way of drawing me back to the real world, and yet still allowing me to think about the past, the past that we now share. It's illegal, of course. Well, I mean, if not illegal, then outside of normal behavior. There's no functional reason to eat, so why would you? Except to invoke secret memories and feelings. So what? We get dressed and give Carruthers a final burst of affection before venturing out on our day trip. The streets are as busy as ever, with shoppers filling in their vacant time between waking and sleeping. These are the folk who only want to integrate, at the superficial level of likes and dislikes, communing consumers, as Mathwa nicknamed them. Agnature admonishes me for the thought. I accept. It was a petty thought. Why not spread some reassurance and happiness instead of doubt? A woman with silver skin squats in the corner of a doorway, looking up at shoppers as they pass by. A man pats her on the head and smiles, but everybody else just passes her, oblivious to her need. Well, that's how it seems to me. Agnature believes in goodness. She believes that rather than a deliberate act of cruelty, they're just so absorbed in their own lives and with their own struggles that they don't notice the silver-skinned woman. I mean, I can accept that up to a point. Surely, though, they get a small pinprick of conscience. Maybe they're just too lazy to engage with it. Although I just get a sense that the vibrations that she's creating, which feel like this never-ending pit of need, are just scaring off even the most generous people walking by. Agnature marches right up to the woman and takes hold of both of her hands, squeezing them tight. The woman scrambles up to her feet and just hugs her. She just gives her a big, bold hug. I wonder if they know each other. To a casual observer, it would appear that they do, but the feeling I'm getting here is the mutual recognition of losing a loved one in traumatic circumstances. The wave of empathy that explodes from their hug makes me want to grab hold of Agnature there and then. She understands that, but she stops me. She wants me to spread our strength to others. I mean, what a different experience it is now to walk along the street. It's true. I'm strong. I mean, that's not to say I'm perfect or the strongest person in town, but I'm stronger than I have ever been. And there's a deepness to it that's new. It makes it easier to commune with strangers. So that's what I do. I walk along so close to Agnature that we brush skin against skin, and the silver and grey skin touch beggars. They just latch onto us, hassling for the briefest encounter. We stop and smile and give them more than they ask for, hugging them or shaking hands. And I'm sure that we can feel it encouraging other people to do the same, or at least to convey warm thoughts to those unfortunate folk who beg for the touch of just another human being. Ice cream, she reminds me. We're here. I close my eyes and I imagine the cold creaminess melting in my mouth with the rich chocolate of a flake sticking to the roof of my mouth. She's standing in front of me with the exact ice cream I imagined. The coldness in my throat, the smell of the cream and the crunch of the wafer take me back to my childhood. I kiss her lips, which taste of strawberry. From now on, this will be our garden, our place of solitude. The ice cream tickles my throat as it slides down, and the bots are tickling the inside of my tummy as they process these foreign bodies, ice cream, chocolate, and wafer. I giggle. I mean, metaphorically. And she responds with the longest cuddle in the world. Ever.